Hey, crafty friends, happy Wednesday. Are you ready to get crafting? It is time for part 2 of our kitchen herb transfer stencil project kit. I'm so excited. So last week we made this beautiful thing. And I love how that turned out, but I've got a couple of really cool ideas for how to use the stencil with some other materials. So one thing that I do is I garden, and you're going to start hearing me talk about that as we move into the season. Next weekend, I'll be getting ready by cleaning out the greenhouse. Sorry, lost my word for a second. But this past weekend, I was sorting through jars in the canning cabinet. We've got some empty ones, and not all of them are deemed safe to use again. So we inspect our jars for like little micro cracks or anything that doesn't look quite right. So I've got one here, and we are going to use that as a crafting project today. So let's get started. I want to move a couple things. Let's move that out of the way. So out of your craft stash, you will need to find a glass jar. It could be a pickle jar. It could be a mason jar, anything that is glass. We are using from your craft kit the Chalkology ink in black and blue. This is Black Velvet and Cadet. And then you're going to need some Mod Podge or some Maker's Magic. So I'm going with the Maker's Magic because it's not supposed to show brush marks when it dries all the way. So let's get started. How y'all doing today? Shout out in the comments when you see this, and tell me how you're doing. It's been a good day for me. I've had just kind of a normal, nothing to write home about, which is nice because we've had some stress in the past few little bits. We are getting ready to do a project in our house, and we've been running around between Home Depot and Lowe's. Oh goodness. And had to so we've been running around between the home improvement stores, and that's just been a little much. So I put a little of this Chalkology ink in the bottom. It doesn't take much, actually. And so I'm going to put a little bit of the Maker's Magic. Ooh, that's plenty as well. And then I'm going to use my brush here. So I've only used this Maker's Magic a couple times now. And so I'm still kind of getting used to it. One thing I noticed the last time I used it is I put too much of the Chalkology ink in, and it didn't quite need that much. So we'll get it all swirled up here. We're just using the ink really to tin it. And the Maker's Magic, by the way, is food contact safe. I'm thinking I'm going to be using these jars for vases or for kitchen herbs in a vase. So I'm actually only going to be using this on the outside of the jar because I do not, even though it says it's fine, I just want to make sure that I'm not sticking herbs down in there and it's sucking up paint and ink and all that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put a glove on just to keep my hands from being a little bit messy. And we're just going to brush this on. Let me give it a stir with the... I've got my favorite paintbrush. This is a rounded tip brush. I don't even know where I got it. So this jar is going to be a light blue jar. And we're not going to do the bottom. We're just going to do, this is going to be beautiful. It's going to give it a nice tone and still be opaque, which is nice. You're just going to be watching me paint a glass jar for a little bit. So let's chat. How have you been doing about finding time to craft? What have been your tips? That's something we're talking about this week. What have been your tips recently for finding extra time to craft? I like to break my projects up so that I do projects in steps, right? So I will paint a jar and then I will go off and do something else like laundry or see what my family is doing, and then I'll come back and do it again, or, you know, do the second coat and then go find something else that needs done in my house and come back. That's kind of how I break it up. And also that keeps me from getting bored or frustrated. I do this especially if I'm getting frustrated. Like anytime I have to make a bow, I am not doing that bow and something else in the craft room at the same time. Bows are hard for me. All right, so it is kind of hard to tell on here that I'm even painting this. We're going to go with a little deeper coat here. So this is going to give us just a nice little blue tint to the jar, kind of make it glassy. And if you want a darker color, you totally can do that, and I will show you. I'm really liking how this is turning out. We'll see how that Maker's Magic does with the brush strokes, won't we? Okay. All right. We will come back to that. Let me show you another example of this. So if you wanted a darker blue, this is one that I painted earlier, and I used the same technique I'm using here. I just put more of the Cadet Blue ink in the Maker's Magic to get a darker color. Now, I also had to do 3 different coats with this to get kind of an even color. And if you can see in the inside here, you can still see my brush strokes on the outside. So I don't think you'd want to put a light or anything inside of it, but for a vase is very, very cute. And I cannot wait to chalk on the outside of this and turn it into a vase for my herbs. So this has dried over here while I was talking, but let's do a little bit of insurance. And now, depending on how thick you put this on, it will take up to an hour to dry. You can use your heat tool, just any embossing or heat tool to speed it up. We're just going to give it a little insurance over here. And I really love how this has turned out. And I realize that I have this blue background down here, so you can't really totally see, but that'll help. Look at how beautiful that is. It went from clear to blue. So we have a little bit of this concoction left, and I actually want to go ahead and put a second coat on, and I think my glove has gotten all messed up here, so let me fight with that. You know, none of this is toxic. It's totally fine if you get it on your hands. I'm just a baby and don't like sticky stuff on my hands. So let's put a second coat really fast on this, and then we'll do the same thing where we hit it with the thing. The brush strokes did go away, by the way, as it dried, so that's good. So I'm noticing that this stuff dried in my brush while I was talking to you all. That's not good. Okay, so while I'm painting, let's talk about some other tips for getting more crafting time. So one thing that I am fortunate to have is a dedicated space for crafting. So I can leave a project out here on my desk and then come back to it when I have time. Now, if you don't have your own crafting room, that's totally fine. Other alternatives to that is you can have a crafting corner in your dining room or bedroom. You can have a crafting tote that you put the current project you're working on in, and then you could do this, you know, while you're sitting and watching TV at night. Put up a tray table in your living room or a card table, just temporarily, and use your tote to craft. Pull out your craft project and work on it. One thing that I encourage people to do, especially if you have kids, most of these projects that I'm doing, you can do with your kids if they have interest. And of course, you're going to know your kids better than me, but if you have 10, 12-year-olds or even older, these projects are good for kids. So involve your family, right? Like, I know sometimes you're doing this just for yourself and you don't want your family's help. I get it. Totally do. My crafting is my therapy, but involving them or giving them a craft project to do while you're doing this can be a really good way to sneak in some crafting time for you, and they think they're doing something too. And you're still supervising your kids, but you're totally not you're doing it together, right? You're getting something done for you. So that's another way. So let's see, what did we talk about? Break up your projects, have a tote, schedule it. That's another thing. Like, my family knows Wednesday nights are my crafting time. And so we're probably not having dinner that night. It's probably something that I'm going to ask you to find to eat on your own. Of course, no one in my house is under 18. So if they can't find something to eat on their own, I've done something wrong as a wife and stepmom, right? So there's that. I have the spot over here that I got it on a little heavy, and I think it was where that got stuck in my brush. And now the more I put it on, do you ever have this happen to paint? The more you put it on, the more it's screwing it up. But that's okay. We're just going to stop touching it is what we're going to do. All right, I want to do something along the bottom here. Fix these spots. Scheduling it. Talking and crafting is hard for me. All right, let's pop that back over for a minute because this will be a little easier. All right. Oh, that's beautiful. All right, let's get out that. I'm going to pop this off. Okay, so now that this is really dry, let's take a look at it. And isn't that a beautiful blue color? I just love how it turned out. And just to think that this is just a regular glass jar, you could make this in any color that you wanted. So now let's stencil on it, shall we? So let's get our fuzzing. This is the Kitchen Herbs Transfer. It's well loved. We've been using it now. This is my third project with it. I used it last week to make note cards and that beautiful shelf sitter. So let's use it now. And I actually I'm going to do this. So we're going to use this black chalk ink this time, but I am going to tilt it up so I can kind of see it. And I want the ball to be on the side with the basil. So let's see. There we go. I'm gonna put it down, push it down gently. So the thing about rounded surfaces and transfers is you want to make sure that you're going slowly so you don't have any bubbles. And did I get that up high enough? Let's see. There's the end. Okay. There we go. And there's the ball. Let's see if we can go up just a bit more, because I want to get some of that stem. Yeah, so just push it down gently and as flatly as you can, because if you get a bubble in there, it's going to leak, and that's not going to be, you're not going to be happy with the results. But if you kind of go slowly and work from the middle out, you can get a good seal. And if you don't, just pick it up and pull it down again. Awesome. All right, so I'm using the more of the Chalkology ink, and this time in the white. And I'm going to tell you what to do with this when you finish. So, oh, I'm sorry, I said white, but I'm using the black. And this one hasn't really been opened. I need to open it appropriately and take that off, but I don't want to get it on me. So let's get some ink here. We're just going to spread it on like butter. And when I get done with this, I'm going to tell you really quick how to treat this. So after you get your transfer on your jar, you're going to let it dry overnight. And then I want you to take this to your oven, put it in a cold oven on a baking sheet. Turn that oven on to 350, let it heat up. When it heats up, then set a timer for 60 minutes. When 60 minutes are over, turn that timer off, or turn that oven off, and let the oven cool. And then once you take your glassware out, your ink will be set. Look at that, beautiful. I'm going to set this down just a little bit because it looks like we need just a little bit more coaxing right here. That happens, don't worry. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful basil. Oh my goodness, how beautiful is this? So I'm going to let this set overnight and then come back later than this week, and I will show you what I do to finish this off and stage it. Now, if you liked this project, don't forget to go back and watch last week's project, which was a little more simple. And don't forget to hit subscribe or follow so that you can join me for next week's project, where we'll be upcycling some wood and also using the kitchen herbs transfer. Also, all the supplies are linked in the comment, so be sure to check that out. And until next week, I'll see you later.